Thanks everyone for coming to this webinar. This is a topic that I am very connected to. This is a really important thing that we've been out constantly talking about, and which is the ability for you to be able to control your own content, whether you're a label or a publisher. There's a huge value to being able to be at the helm of your own content strategy and your own organization of that content. And today's topic is really to talk about the fact that it's not as unaffordable as it sounds. I think this day and age, and may have not been the same 5 years ago, but this day and age, being able to be in the controls of your own content, where it goes, how it gets there, is completely feasible and should be something that everyone is considering, regardless of who you do the distribution with, regardless of who you guys do services with. All of the content itself is as critical to your business as the financials in your financial system, whether it's QuickBooks or something else. We have long felt, and I've many times talked about, the value of metadata, and I think Bill Wilson, who's going to be joining us in this conversation, will have a lot to say on this topic. He was very critical in the early days of ensuring metadata was at the forefront of the industry. He's helped develop the metadata programs at MusicBiz. And a lot of the things we'll be talking about today are really about, how and what you can do to better manage that content, and more importantly, how you can do it in the most cost-effective way as running your own independent label and business. So with that, let me introduce Bill Wilson. Bill Wilson, why don't you say a few words about yourself?
Cool. I don't know about the icon and guru part of it, but I will do my best. The reason why Edward invited me to be a part of this conversation is because I spent many years in the trenches doing this kind of stuff for myself, as a punk rock label that was there at the beginning of this thing we called, new media back then. And I was able to transition my label from an analog era to the digital world, and have been through many evolutions, and really didn't have a lot of money to do it with. So I understand the needs of the small label, and the value proposition of what distribution and delivery can bring to a label. For the last several years, I've been running essentially the digital side of the business, under the title of SVP of Operations and Innovation for a company called Monarch, which used to be E1 Entertainment, the music division. So I've seen the need for better systems on the operations side, on the larger scale as well. And I understand the common threads, the common needs, and how always everybody seems to be strapped for resources no matter what size that you are, and the efficiencies that some of these solutions bring to the table. Currently, as of April, I am consulting, working for a bunch of different companies, including Monarch, the former full-time company, and I help both labels and emerging technology companies with their operations and software stack, and making sure that they can integrate seamlessly into the worlds that they're getting into, and also looking at other emerging technologies for metrics, and measurement, with for all sizes of business, in the indie space. So that's kind of what I'm doing now, and let's I guess kick off the discussion.
Yeah, well, excellent. So again, one of the more pertinent topics of our industry right now is the changing landscape of the entire process of getting music out into the market. And I think many of you who have been in this industry for a long time have seen the evolution of this process. You've seen it go from a pick, pack, and ship warehousing industry during the physical days as it evolved into the digital era of getting content to various retail providers. And we've been watching this evolution. We've been involved with a lot of this evolution on the OpenPlay side. In fact, OpenPlay was born in the digital era, but with a foot in physical, because we obviously started in a time where both were critical and still are critical to every label's operations. And the evolution of distribution, which is a term that I think is starting to, in my opinion, get retired or should get retired, has changed into a much more defined understanding, which is delivery, services, and money. And those aspects, I think, are really, really critical to understand separately, because they no longer need to come from one place. They no longer need to be done from one single provider. And that is not how historically it's been done. Historically, it has all been under one provider. But much like your bank, you can have your mortgage, your credit cards, and your checking account under one bank, or you can use 3 different organizations to do this, depending on what best fits your profile, who you best align with, what type of business you are looking to run. All of those elements have to be considered. And what we are looking at with OpenPlay is how we can best allow you to go through this process of having that choice, and using platforms like OpenPlay, where your content is yours, regardless of which of those services you tend to use, without having to uproot your catalog every single time, moving from one group to the other, which is just not sustainable. And more so in this world where attribution and metadata quality is so critical, everything and sometimes almost many things get lost in every type of migration you make from system to system. So, Bill, maybe we should jump into those topics.
Sure. I mean, when you think about kind of, going back to the sort of the top level of discussion, it all revolves around, I guess, sort of the whole aspect of delivery versus distribution, which is kind of one of the main thrusts that I think we're gonna talk about. And you know, as far as content delivery, there's, there are a number of systems that you can use as a trebuchet just to get your music into distributors. I mean, into DSPs. And that is increasingly commoditized. But then you have distribution companies that offer a wealth of service. One of the value propositions of distribution is some of the artist and sales functions that they perform on the distribution side, which is distinctly different than supply chain and operations. And then you have this kind of weird third bucket, which is essentially the services around metadata. So whether it's cleaning up your catalog, whether it's developing an API to deliver your music into your website more seamlessly to keep an evergreen website of a release schedule, whether it's integrating with third-party solutions to automatically create stems from what you're doing, whether it's just being able to clean up and look at your catalog differently and be able to output it in different ways. This is sort of that second tier of supply chain and operations that every label needs in order to function within the current marketplace. And I think that's where OpenPlay is exceptionally helpful in being able to provide not only just that trebuchet, if you will, into the DSPs, but also the management of the data, which is increasingly important because it's become increasingly complicated.
And I think that's exactly why we developed OpenPlay, is that the complexity of getting this right, getting your data in the right place, is something that most labels don't have the appetite nor the money to build out and focus on. It's not their day-to-day focus. The focus is promoting your artists, finding new artists, making sure all that your marketing is in place. Those are things that we at OpenPlay don't do. We don't offer those services. It's not our part to do so. It's also why we work with almost every major distributor in the market. We partner with them to deliver content into their infrastructure. They deliver content to us when labels are potentially moving to different parties. And we think that this is a really healthy ecosystem because everyone really gets to focus and do the things that they do best. Distributors today really do a great job in putting their artists that they promote forward, getting them discovered, getting them on playlists, getting them in places that need to be there. They're also really good at helping labels with funding and making sure that they have enough cash to operate. And every distributor has their own DNA. They have their own secret sauce and where they do best and where they operate. No distributors are all the same. There's a lot to be done when it comes to understanding your market, what type of music you're representing, and it's important to choose the distributor to partner with that really aligns with that DNA. And in some cases, we have labels who feel that they have all this DNA in-house, and that's completely fine too. OpenPlay also designed to go directly to market. No need for those services. No need for your marketing data. No need for any of these services that third parties provide. And we at OpenPlay think that that's completely normal. And the trend of what we're seeing is there is a kind of a DIY light scenario happening where we deliver content into the market, and the majority of the services, the label either sources internally or finds their own assistants to get those products really promoted in the space. And we, again, want to make sure that OpenPlay is understood to be that system of master data, that system of record, the one place that once you set up your content, set up your contracts, set up your deals, and these deals could be with multiple distributors. You could have a distributor that does a great job in Asia, another great distributor that does a great job in LATAM. They don't need to be the same, but you're not entering your content into two separate systems or three separate systems. You're managing it from one place that if something changes, your business relationship change, it's completely a simple click process to repoint where that content goes next.
Yeah, and that's an important point to consider because a lot of indies kind of cobble together what they consider to be a great solution for operations and supply chain. So they'll say, let's use TuneCore for this segment of DSP, and then let's utilize, let's do a direct deal with let's just say Apple or something, and let's do it. We have to do a direct deal with Amazon because Amazon, kind of thing. Or they do another deal with another distributor to get into Amazon and YouTube, for example. And by not having a singular sort of one ring to rule them all, you are playing perpetual whack-a-mole with making sure that there's consistency of data in every single system, making sure that if you're delivering to Apple through iTunes Producer a la carte, and then you're delivering through a distributor for a couple of other DSPs, and then you're delivering through kind of a different type of model for other DSPs, your work life as an indie is increasingly complicated when you should be using the machine to take that drudgery out of your process and creating streamlined efficiencies and essentially splicing all the middle tasks out and letting the software do it. And it is a considerable time savings. And the larger your catalog gets, the increasing amount of pain you suffer by having all these different kinds of deals and remembering which product went to which distributor and who did which and whatever. And that is a key problem that needs to be fixed at at every level of label. So it's just important to remember that, when it comes to delivery versus distribution and kind of the services that are provided, the value of having a consolidated operations platform I believe is mission critical to everybody. If you're in the business to be in business.
And those who know me know my background coming out of Concord. That's where I really got my start in our space. This was not the Concord that is buying Hypnosis today. This was the Concord that was releasing mostly Kenny G albums in the mid-aughts. I was fortunate enough to work with a team that really understood that automation and creating operational systems was going to be the path to better understanding of our content, more royalties being collected, and being able to grow quickly by acquiring faster if new catalogs, for example, come on market. And the operational strength is being able to bring in new content and get it out as quickly as possible in order to monetize that content. And what we were able to do was build OpenPlay to what it is today on the suffrage of the staff doing the work that Bill just described. We really sat and positioned our engineering teams into almost every aspect of the organization, where we saw what marketing had to go through, what business affairs had to go through, what all of these groups had to do to pull together a record. And we have huge amounts of respect for the workflow and the process, because OpenPlay is not simply just a data in, data out system. It is a complete workflow ecosystem to be able to take your content from early creation, even idea stage, all the way to market exploitation, and then financially analyzing how things are performing. And we've done this so that we can also provide value to everyone inside of a label. Historically, systems like OpenPlay have been relegated to a couple production folks in an organization, and that's all who really use it, because that's how they've been trained by distribution companies. Give us one or two people who will enter content into this catapult, and we will send this to market. That is not how OpenPlay should be used. OpenPlay is your daily ERP. It is your financial system, your insight system. It is the place where anyone in your organization needs to listen to music, share and pitch music, or be able to deliver music to partners. This is how we've wanted to always position OpenPlay, and that is the product that we have today. And since then, we've added a slew of API infrastructure to our ecosystem, because we have a lot of third-party groups that we work with, and we encourage everyone in the space to really become aware of some of the companies coming out today that are doing some incredible work that will simplify your workflows, that will automate some of your processes, and OpenPlay is the connector and the glue to those systems. And as you scale as a company, OpenPlay will scale with you. We power some of the largest music companies in the world. We power several of the majors in the world. And for us, we started with the largest companies before we brought this product to the independent sector. We made sure that it was able to handle the complexities of a Taylor Swift or an Ed Sheeran and all of its necessity. And that's where we wanted to make sure that when we brought this product to the indie world, that it had the same strength as what majors and mini majors are using to run their entire operations. And as you scale, the product scales with you. The functionality increases. You don't need to start with all of it day one, but it's going to be all there for you day one.
I know that, in our pre-prep conversations, we are, everybody mentioned, are there any sort of questions or comments thus far on kind of what we've been talking about? I definitely want to make this, a little bit of an open discussion. So if anybody has any questions, I think, Christian, you want to look at them in the chat and see if we can talk about that?
So So again, I don't think people have been known that they can ask questions yet. So we can come back to some of the questions that come out.
If you want to enter questions or comments or whatever it is in the comment section, we'll do our best to address them as we continue to yammer on.
But I want to talk about a little bit about the whole topic of this webinar, which is how to effectively run your independent business without breaking the bank. And that is a critical piece for what we are doing at OpenPlay. We just are launching and made available a sub $500 a month product that lets you run all of your business in that amount. This allows most labels that we work with to have an easy way to get started without having to, again, spend tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars that had to be put in to create systems like us and our systems in general. So for us, we really want to make sure that every label we talk to really understands that they can get started right away with a system like OpenPlay, interface with almost every major distributor. And if we have an interface with you and you happen to be a distributor, come see us. We would love to integrate with you. We are evolving as an industry. We understand that the sensitivities of everyone's want to keep their world to themselves. But this landscape is different now. We have to be more collaborative. Technologies like DDEX were created in order to facilitate collaboration, facilitate exchange of information. And OpenPlay is a big supporter of the DDEX message, big supporter of why interoperability of data is so critical to our space. And if we and the indie sectors really embrace owning and managing their metadata and content the way that they do their QuickBooks, we would be in a much better place when it comes to black boxes and attribution, because most of those problems stem from not enough information in the market to assess who owns what and who needs to be paid what. And most of that stems from the data just not being able to be entered into a lot of the systems that are out there today. And as they migrate between those companies, that data gets lost and never re-entered again. So we've worked with labels, and I'm sure Bill has as well, that have spent months, if not longer, cleaning their systems and their data. And then when they go and move to a different distributor, they can't get it back. They don't have access to it. So the next time they look at a spreadsheet to fill out a catalog, they're not going to go deep into the contributors. They're going to leave you with a primary artist and maybe a featured artist, and that's all you'll get. But that's damaging to the market. That's damaging to the label. That's damaging to artists. Artists of the end result get screwed here because the data that they are custodians are managing are not being managed properly.
And there's also a significant amount of things happening in the world externally of things being delivered, right? So one of the important things is, to, again, aside from what I call the catapult or trebuchet into the DSPs, and just the standard DDEX delivery packaging up sort of a minimal or the most minimal set of metadata that conforms to the rules of the DSP, there are so many other aspects now of data that are necessary to collect and manage that it's very important to keep all that all centered. So for example, you're not going to deliver digital product data to, you're not going to deliver physical product data to vinyl, for example, to Spotify, but having that, all the codes associated with your vinyl in one place and being able to manage that, which OpenPlay does, is also critical. Being able to export those consolidated, even CSVs of your catalog that can be delivered ad hoc to different people who require that delivery, imported into Shopify, for example. These are all critical things that sort of your standard spreadsheet is not going to help you do. And the individual dashboards of different places are not as helpful as having everything maintained in one central location. You also look at the expanded amount of information that is theoretically available right now through some of the additional DDEX specs, the MEAD standard, enhanced metadata, which delivers a lot of information around performing artists and studios and the credit sort of aspect of it that's been missing for so many years. Now, DSPs are still in the process of deciding of that what to adopt. But having that information handy, if it, again, as you look down the road is important because you're never always going to remember who recorded what where. And that little note that you write down or that spreadsheet that comes along with something for in the physical space, you also want to remember, hey, with respect to physical releases, how many pieces of vinyl did I press on this color or that color or this color or that color? And these are all the types of little tidbits of information that indie labels usually scramble for at some point, and they have to spend all night hunting through papers or doing whatever they're going to do. when it could be just processed in one platform. And that's the value proposition of OpenPlay, for example, that allows you to, again, that sort of one ring to rule them all, but also that additional information that may not necessarily be DSP ready today, but will be DSP ready tomorrow. And then the deployment of those assets to multiple other parties that just aren't DSPs.
Yeah, and I think what Bill is also touching on is really important. Comprehensiveness of any system you guys want to use in the market is so critical, because if you don't have comprehensive system, then you have multiple systems that have to do things. And if people have to do things in multiple systems, mostly that's where fault starts to arise. The complexity grows, manual work goes up. For us, we wanted to focus on a system that had all the audio, all the video, merchandise support, physical products, manufacturing infrastructure, so that, to Bill's point, you can track that you have 2,500 units of this vinyl being pressed. And here's the bill of materials that's going to the pressing plant. Here are the inlays. Here are the colors that are being utilized. These are all things that are important to run a business. And if you had a spreadsheet here to manage this and some sort of system here to manage that, you're now having to connect this manually every single time. And most people just stop using those systems, or they stop using them poorly. And comprehensiveness for us is really part of our DNA. We want to make sure that every aspect of the type of business you want to be doing is in OpenPlay. Which is why we've invested so heavily and will continue to invest in building out our publishing program, which will be launching in the fall. This is a combined infrastructure into OpenPlay, so you will be able to look at publishing and recorded music together in the same system. That's very important to us, and it's also very important to the market, because we need better data, especially publishing data, out in the market. And the way to get there is to have publishers and recorded companies to more aligned with a single lens of truth that they're working off of, knowing that there's a conflict, knowing how to resolve that conflict. These are functionalities that OpenPlay is going to really help shepherd in the market. Without having to wait for some legislation or some group to force it. We want to make sure that the good data standards don't have to come at a very expensive cost.
There is a question that I think is apropos for right now, which is there a royalty and payment processing capability in OpenPlay? So talk about a little bit about that sort of service add-on that you can you can bring to the table.
Yeah, look, so OpenPlay serves as a master data for a lot of systems, royalty systems included. We have a financial tool called Intune, which takes statements and brings all that revenue to your forefront, and it matches that revenue against your own catalog in OpenPlay. So you know what is getting paid on, where it's getting paid on, and do we have the rights to be getting paid on this? It also is great to show you where you might not be getting paid. We are all about giving visibility about where your content is being delivered. So we actually track deliveries in the market, not just what was distributed, but we actually have technology that goes to these DSPs like Apple and Spotify and Deezer and checks that your product is actually up in these regions. And we then make sure that when the revenue comes in, we're able to highlight if something is missing in that regard. When it comes to computation of royalties, though, we partner with a lot of folks. We don't actually do the compute, but we work with companies like STEM, who offer an extensive royalty and artist portal. We work with companies like Curve, which have a world-class royalty system. And we interface with a number of industry common systems like Record Maestro or Music Maestro. Those are how we've positioned OpenPlay to be the most flexible, because we don't want you to migrate your entire life when you move to OpenPlay. You can bring OpenPlay into as a master data system, but still hold on to your royalty system. Migrations are hard. Royalty migrations are even harder. The last thing we want to do is displace your entire universe in one go. So for us, it's all about creating an ecosystem that you can connect into, have your partners connect into, have the companies you work connect into. And now when you are looking at a piece of technology or some sort of system that you want to bring into your organization, you will think to yourself, is this system that we're going to be buying, can it be connected to? Can it connect to OpenPlay? Can we reduce our workload when we're interfacing with these systems? Because if you don't, what ends up happening is those systems die on the vine. They never get used, they don't get used properly, and they effectively just get turned off. That's not something we want to see in the market. We actually want to promote more companies like Curve and others to step in to our landscape, to step into this ecosystem, and we will make it easier at OpenPlay for these companies to get access to your data securely and make sure that they're able to operate and grow in our industry, because we've seen too many startups fall apart and fail.
Cool. Yeah. Are there any other sort of services that people are looking for or have questions about kind of the different components? Because obviously there's the OpenPlay as a central data repository, both for just for DSP delivery, and that's the simplest way to get in. But then there's the more robust second and third tier level of data that may or may not be used at this moment that you still need to store and capture. There's the physical release aspect that I don't think too many others offer, with respect to managing physical titles and the detail around that, which is again helpful to keep, you know, your production life in kind of a single ecosystem. And so, you know, are there any other, and then, you know, Edward just talked a little bit about kind of the incoming statements and the financial analysis. It's not a daily analysis, just so everybody is aware, right? It's not looking at something like Illuminate or an entertainment intelligence that brings things in on a daily basis and looks at streams that are unaudited. This is bringing in these statements that are issued 60 days, end of month after, usually a month has been completed, and then the DSPs will be paying out based on those audited numbers, which probably includes a Spotify deduction for potentially tracks that may have been artificially grown in some ways, right? But you'll be able to see the differential between what you might think you're getting, and if you paid for streams, which you shouldn't, the difference between what they pay for and what they do if you didn't get dinged by your distributor already, or they haven't contacted you directly about your artificial streams. So these are all the different aspects to why OpenPlay as a system is much more valuable, again, than just a simple trebuchet into the DSPs.
And we have lots of this type of functionality as you explore OpenPlay. We manage sessions straight from the recording studios, the union contracts, all of those things so that they originate and stay inside of OpenPlay. So all of your administration when it comes to A&R admin stays in one place. And as those recordings, which are stored in OpenPlay, become actual commercial properties, we actually track the provenance of that recording from that studio set all the way into an ISRC that is now on a commercial product, so that again you know the entire story of what happened with this music when it was created, and many times 10 years later, where everyone's long gone or forgotten how this originated. It's also why we tell stories by interfacing with third-party data systems. We know that we don't control all the world's data. So we interface with companies like Songkick and pull real-time touring data. So when you're looking at an artist in OpenPlay, you know exactly where they're touring. And you can use that data to incorporate into reports and other things that you might be running. We interface with RIAA and pull in all the certifications, all the Grammy wins, everything that comes across programmatically, because we know if we don't do this programmatically and we don't do this on your behalf, it's never going to get pulled in properly. It will become stale the moment you guys have somebody pull this information. We make it so that it's available, that you can literally say, I want to see show me every album that's gone gold and create a playlist out of that album. That's what OpenPlay does with a single click. We also have promotion and marketing tools that we built. We have a really well-placed EPK infrastructure, an enterprise press kit. It allows any release, any artist to be turned into a single-page website automatically with all the marketing assets, photos, and audio that's in OpenPlay, now securely available for you to pitch with, send to reviewers, make available to DSPs, so that you don't have to choose which of your artists you have budget to create this for. It should be something that is available to every single product inside of your organization. And for us, this is just the beginning. We are layering on more functionality. We are solely focused on this product. We release about 10 to 15 new features every quarter. It is something that we also work with all of our existing customers using OpenPlay, and there's about 3,700 labels across the globe using it. And we learn from all of their daily use. We get feedback from them all the time, and everything we build becomes available to everybody. We don't bifurcate what gets built for one person to another. If it's valuable to the market, valuable to our users, that feature that we build for a major label, for example, will be available to everyone in the ecosystem that's on OpenPlay. And that is the value of SaaS products, that gets everyone to get the best of what's out there without having to go and build it themselves or customize it.
Right. And there's a question that has just arisen as far as artists and labels having a portal to access catalog and do their own stuff. And the fact is, yeah, I mean, this was built with the distribution aspect of things there. So there is maybe it would be useful to quickly describe the tenant relationship within.
Yeah. So great question. So OpenPlay has been from its ground up a multi-tenant system. We knew that being able to bifurcate access to content, restricted to certain labels, restricted to certain artists, it needs to be part of our original and origination process. So that we've done that. Any piece of content can be bifurcated into different tenants. We can lock down what users have access to those tenants. You can invite individual artists that they only see their catalog in that tenant infrastructure. And we're working on new ways to simplify the types of metadata that's being captured. We have a process now that as you're setting up a new release, it guides you through which fields are important, why those fields are important, because we feel education is so critical. If you know that this field, if put in, is going to help you get discovered better on Amazon, you're more likely to put in the value into that field. If you don't, it's just noise. So for us, it's all about educating you why this field matters. And if it doesn't, we'll tell you that too, because that's okay. There are many things that people want to store that may not have commercial value yet, but we will help you know which ones are critical, which ones are not. And that's regardless of who your distributor is. That's what's important here, is that this is your own information that will stay with you through the life and the journey of your entire label career, entire label journey with the content. So we want you to know that every piece of work that you put in, every piece of data that you populate will never get lost, will never not ever have to be found again because you've moved one company to another for distribution.
Cool. So we have and as far as the interesting services, thinking about APIs and what else can be brought to the table. One of the things that's was being considered by a company is being able to deliver from OpenPlay into an AI tagging service, be able to get those tags back from the service that would give back granular metadata on tempo, style, potentially lyric analysis. And that all helps with synchronization data as far as metadata that's necessary to pitch. But it's also interesting because, as Edward touched on before, with create a gold playlist of all the indie content from our distribution company for the last X number of years, you can also then create playlisting based on sound alikes in your own system. You can also create a playlist based on happy music. You can also create study music playlists. You can also create instrumental playlists. And without having a deep institutional knowledge of the catalog, which is critical for most companies, you can actually do it through the data. And again, this is why this story is important, because there are going to be people who work with the catalog that and their own catalogs who don't necessarily know the gory detail of the history because, you know, their companies are too big or they just got the job a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and Bill is touching on the fact that we are all about taking the master data that you have, the audio and the core data, and extending it as programmatically as simply as possible so you don't need to worry about the technical aspects of that process. So we want you to go and be prolific with choosing which tagging service is right for you, because there are now a couple dozen tagging services. We have some favorites. We have labels that have their own favorites. This is not about determining which musicologist has it right. It's about making sure that anyone you choose can easily pull this audio out of OpenPlay, get those tags done for you, and programmatically put those tags back into OpenPlay so that you can, again, be as prolific in the market, doing deals with technology companies, not having to worry about the technical aspects of how are we going to get this data to them, how are we going to integrate with them, because if a lot of deals get done this way. We see it all the time. A label gets so excited that a technology they can use is ready to be used, and then they do the deal, and then it's, now what? We have Google spreadsheets, we have Dropbox, so our distributor can't get us our data back. So all of these things then hinder all that excitement that happens, and we want to derail that by all of the interfaces that we currently provide. We do this with financial companies as well. There's, as many of you know, there's a lot of funding out there right now. There's a lot of companies popping up to give you advances, to give you financial help as a label, acquiring catalogs, being able to value your catalogs. Those are all predicated on knowing where your data is and what you own, and we have that in OpenPlay. So when we partner with companies like BeatBread and similar, who can now pull programmatically all the data out of our systems once they have permission from a label, that label just immediately can get a valuation and how much money they can get from that funder. This, it's a frictionless process, and we see this evolving more and more as more third parties come on board. Same with payments, whether you're dealing with companies like Exactuals or Trolley, they all need the same master data. You don't need to worry about what the technical alignment is going to look like. You do the deal with them, we interface that right away with that organization, and you're able to start using their services and their technologies.
So, very quick touch question. The AI systems that we're talking about are external. So basically, OpenPlay provides the conduit to easily deliver and receive the data back into the system. What OpenPlay doesn't do is it doesn't have its own AI that will do this analysis for anybody, right? So what we're saying is that there's a central hub for data. It can be essentially syndicated out, looped through whatever other tertiary or secondary systems that you want, and then the feedback data can be brought back into OpenPlay as a hub. So that's to put to add a point of clarity to the question that you were asking.
And we have great lists of some of the best companies out there that we work with, and if you guys need any help about who's what options for AI tagging, what are the options these days for integrating with payment systems, which ones do you guys integrate with, we're more than happy to share that information. There are great companies out there, especially in the tagging space, everything from Ames to Museo to Feedforward, Cyanite. There's some awesome companies that could, again, benefit and align with what you guys need from them. We will accentuate those connections. One of the themes that we wanted to make sure we cover is, why to this day has delivery not been a commodity, which we believe delivery of content into the market is and should be a commodity. But historically, it's been gate kept by a few groups who have access to going to the DSPs. DSPs don't just allow you, the label, to get content to them. You have got to go through an authorized, approved provider, and those are given out like taxi medallions in New York. You have to fight for it, and once you have it, that is the only place to go. And I have lots of thoughts on this, and if you catch me at a bar at Music Biz, I'll tell you more discreetly. But I feel that what that does, just like it does with taxi medallions, is it removes the hunger from those organizations that own those medallions in many ways. It doesn't need, they don't need to evolve as quickly, evolve as fast, because they have the pipeline of business that just has to come their way. And at this point, what we've done is we can help labels again, anyone who has those medallions, we will work with, we will interface with, and deliver to them, so that you don't need to be reliant on a system that might be 15 years old, which is the average age of distribution systems out there. In the world of AI, you can't even contemplate how much is being lost when you don't have a system that can keep up with all the needs of data this day and age. But this allows our partners who may not have invested in those systems to also benefit from OpenPlay by taking its content and getting it out back into that market.
There's also an aspect of kind of like where, we're sort of bringing back memories of my young, naive self that had to do everything himself to his own detriment. Um, there's this thing where people are like, oh, that's expensive, I'm gonna build it myself. And they try to cobble together these systems that ultimately record companies, like, I spent years developing databases in FileMaker for press, for radio, for retail, and they worked elegantly for a small group of people at the time, which was the early 90s, right when FileMaker initially came out. There are companies that are now using, different programs like Monday.com and trying to build these systems themselves because it appears cheaper. But then you have to look at the cost of doing it. You have to look at the relationships. You have to look at what you're missing out on doing because you're concentrating on building software, or you're using no code to build something that doesn't perform as well. So you have to look at that cost and say, is it worth it to pay for a pre-built system that actually works, that takes care of my needs, that is not going to break my bank, versus saying, I'm going to dedicate 5 weeks to build this thing, and you're never gonna do it. And even the major labels, even the bigger companies, like, the big joke in the entire industry is that labels are software companies. They're not. They suck at it. They waste a bunch of money. What they do is they spend a shitload of money to build their own internal systems, don't ever update it. It dilapidates over time. And what happens is, instead of incrementally fixing it or performing maintenance on it, they just build it until it can't sustain itself anymore and the building collapses, and then they decide to build another brand new building on top of the one that just went poof. And that's what I've seen from afar. It's what I've seen internally at companies, both large and small. And I know because I also did this to myself. Whoa, what the hell is that?
That's how excited Bill is about
Hands
this.
and gesture thing? Hold on.
Uh,
No, I don't know what that is.
yeah, so I think it's important to also understand that if you have homegrown anything, no, fields can be captured in anything these days, right? Airtable, you name it, you can capture data. But what we see and what everyone needs to understand is metadata in music is a living, breathing animal. Things have impact. If a release date changes, that has an impact on a lot of things. We at OpenPlay, if a release date changes, we assess the impact of that release date change, because you might have 4 other territories that have different street dates. And now you've changed this, and that has a rolling effect that needs to have an impact on those international dates. We have rights change positions. So if you lose streaming rights or ad-supported rights, that has an impact to the products that you have. Takedowns might need to be automated when that happens. We orchestrate those out of OpenPlay because we are looking at every field very, very much as living, breathing experiences. If you have something that's a track that is an explicit track, joining an album that happens to not be explicit, it has to become explicit. These are rules that have really deep learnings that have come from years of building platforms like this. So it truly doesn't make sense that everyone has to replicate this, spend 10 years like we did building this. Apple and Spotify update their style guides regularly. Why do 300 people in our world need to get started to modify the same title requirement that Apple just released? That they don't need to. They can use a system that does this for them. We've seen evidence of this being successful. Salesforce, Monday.com, NetSuite, all these parties that are outside of music have figured out that central systems that you can connect and layer against for the life of your business is the real strategy for growth. And again, affordability is what we've been driving to. If we had this seminar 10 years ago, this would be a $500,000 program that we were running. Now it's less than $500 a month for a label to get started on OpenPlay and be able to really leverage all these capabilities. One of the reasons we don't charge by user is because we want everyone in the organization to feel that they can use a platform like OpenPlay, even if it's just to listen to music. The amount of companies we walk into that most people don't even have access to their own music to listen to, they might as well be working for a car parts company. They just are so removed from the fact that they are in a music company. And I was from the era where people would walk around with promo CDs. So at least you felt connected a little bit to some of that music. Those days are gone for the most part. So OpenPlay and many of our label organizations serves as that place where they can listen to that promo before it goes to market. And I think that's important for everyone in the organization to feel that they are part of a music company. And this is, again, really core to our DNA. And I know we're close on time, but I wanted us to. Yeah, so again, we're really, really excited that you guys were able to join us. I would love to see you guys in Nashville next week if you guys happen to be at Music Biz. We have demonstrations happening throughout the week. There's several panels that I'm talking about that are really apropos to our industry, everything from publishing and overlap to recorded music to AI. Again, all topics that are really critical to OpenPlay because we see all those technologies, all these evolutions as extensions to what we store inside of OpenPlay, so you can leverage that content and re-leverage that content every time there's a new experience, even if it's a fad like blockchain. We want you to be positioned to explore it and not worry about the technical aspects of the work. We'll do that at OpenPlay.
Cool. Any last minute questions that anybody wants to ask? Because I guess we have 3 minutes left in the time. So let us know if there's anything else that you.
Oh, I see Steve joined. I'm not ready for his questions.
Yeah, I'll hold it off until Tuesday.
I just wanted to say that I have to look at your website because I haven't seen it. I would imagine there's a demo that we can request.
Absolutely. Yeah, visit our website and we'll definitely get you set up for a demo. We do demos and then we immediately give out access to the system to play with because it's important to actually touch it and feel it. And we also ingest content from almost every distributor. So if you already have your data in the market, we can bring it into OpenPlay pretty readily.
And can be completely self-serving if anybody wants to reach out to me for any discussions on the data issue. I am bw@indiedojo.com. So it's bw@indiedojo.com. I will put that in the chat.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know Bill, he has lived every aspect of a label's journey, and also runs his own indie label. So he's very apt on helping with content strategy, system strategies. These are all kind of really important for independent labels, especially to be aware of.
So cool. All right. 2 minutes left. I guess everybody can have time back in their day, as it were.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.